Stathopoulos and Josh Phegan come together in an incredible podcast, Grow, Scale, Master.
An energetic approach to drive progress, master skills, build strengths and put the strategy back into rapid business and personal success.
Backed by real-world experience in rapid scaling to playing the long-term game of business, it's the story of all the lessons learned on the journey to mastery.
Be inspired, renew your energy and chase the future with Grow, Scale, Master.
Con, today we're going to talk about a really important thing, and I hope that you never need this as a skill set.
Me too.
But I'm going to really get clear about the skill set of what we got to call the crisis council.
Yep.
And this is interesting about really understanding, so what is a crisis? So inside of your business, you will face many a time where you might find yourself in a position that all of a sudden a crisis happens. It could be a salesperson leaves, property manager leaves. It could be more serious than that. Something's gone wrong in terms of legislative compliance.
Yeah.
Maybe something has happened in the business. Maybe something has happened and a deposit hasn't been paid that you thought had been paid. Or maybe, for example, you found that there has been something that's happened in the trust account which is not kosher. And so you're in a position about saying, okay, great. And I think that a lot of people get themselves that when a crisis hits, they try to absorb all of that and do all of that themselves. And what I'm going to say to you is that it's probably the worst thing that you can do. The best thing to do is that when it actually happens is to really write out and get the facts, not the emotions, but the facts about what's actually occurred. So you can get really clear through that.
Okay, just double click there for a second. Is this something, though, that we, like a disaster recovery plan, a business continuity plan, is this something that we should be prepared for? Mm-hmm. So that adage, be alert, not alarmed, before the crisis, because it's easy to say, start jotting these things down without emotion, but if you've just had the biggest thing that, kind of rocks your world, you need to have a default plan, right?
But the reason why you need it written out in the dot points of what's actually happened is that the next conversation is that literally who are your go-tos? And what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to explain in clear, unbiased detail of what's actually happened.
Okay.
So Con, this is actually what has occurred.
Yep.
Here are the facts about A, B, and C.
Right.
And the reason why that's important is that once you've got the facts, you're going to have a different perspective and you might ask some different questions. What do you mean? Or how would that happen? And then how would we get that? But just tell me a little bit more about that. And until you're because sometimes the solution to the crisis is not even remotely evidently or clear.
Yep.
And so what you've got to do is you've
tease it out.
You've got to adapt and then all of a sudden work with some others until you actually get a resolution or an outcome.
So your crisis council, who could that be?
So it depends on what the problem is.
Okay, yeah.
So if it's legal, it's legal. If it's financial, it's financial. If it's tech, it's tech. If it's marketing, it's marketing.
Okay.
Or it might be a combination of a few people all at the same time.
Or people that you take counsel from, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so then that whole idea is to say, okay, great. That when you got to get really clear about what the crisis is, you got to know, okay, great. So now that this has actually happened, who are the go-to people that we're going to have a direct conversation with, and I'm going to form this council as quickly as possible and bring them together. And that might be on a Zoom. It might just be a quick phone call to those particular people that you foundationally trust. Yep. And then what your job is to then do is to brainstorm through the options. So we could do this, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this.
Okay.
And some of that will instantly discount because the other people inside of the crisis council go, no, not
that won't work.
Yep, no, I've tried that before. Or no, this is a thing. Or you know what? Sometimes it will open up a new spider web of opportunity to go, let's talk to that person because I know they've dealt with that before.
Okay.
So this is kind of interesting because when you then think about what the options are, it starts to spin you up and then you can get really clear about it. And then your job is to then say, okay, great, how quickly can we impact this or how quickly can we get this resolved? And this is what I go to call the swarm effect.
Yeah.
That how can you get a response out of suppliers or key people that you need a response of, and particularly people that you've never ever met before, so that then you can actually be in a position that you can then go and, okay, great, get a result as quickly as possible, or get some advisory, around this particular thing.
Yeah.
Next conversation is that then, learning that when these crises occur, you will often go to someone and ask the question. And I have inadvertently probably created a role called the crisis guy.
You are.
That when people are in trouble, they often will, not trouble like that, but trouble as in something's gone on.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, they need counsel.
They'll go, hey, what do you think?
Yeah.
And the first thing that I'll often do is that I'll go, okay, great, well then what are the values? So if an organization does not have explicit values that are easy to remember and that people can like just get a hold of straight away, then it's really hard to go to make those decisions. So I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, we both know Damien Hackett really well at Place.
Yep.
And they've got a great set of values in Rice. And it's the easiest to remember out of the client base. So respect, innovation, community, and excellence. So that particular thing has occurred. So let's create a scenario.
And wrap the values around it.
Okay, great. So, Con, guess what? I've just found out that in one of our offices, there are two salespeople having a bit of a fight over a particular listing.
Yep.
And one of them has gone home overnight and they've had a couple of drinks. And now what they've done is that they've decided, and we're pretty sure that it's this person, and what they've actually done is that they've now gone on and written a negative review about their peer.
Right.
So that's on Google Reviews as an example, or on the major real estate websites. Okay, great. So what do we do about that? Now, you might say, hey, look, I'm really happy to just be able to go and handle that, but now there's a learning opportunity. So you've got, and this is fictitious, but you've got, for example, Riley and Ed and Ned, and you can bring them into a room, or you could bring in a partner, and have that conversation. Hey, what do you think we could do here? And the interesting thing is that when you're looking at that, you go, okay, great. What are the things? What's actually true here, and how do we do it? Okay, great. Writing a negative review about your peer partner, is that respectful? No.
Yeah, no.
Does it demonstrate innovation? Not appropriate. Is it community? No, it's definitely not building the community in the office. Okay, great. And is it demonstrating excellence? No. Okay, great. 3 out of the 4, not on.
Yeah.
Even if it was like one out of the 4, not
correct.
on.
Yeah.
And so the problem is that what we see inside of a lot of businesses, they are not, their values are not baked in. Their values are too hard to remember. And their values are therefore not lived and not used and not a part of helping to guide behaviours.
That's a really, really, really good point, is wrapping the values around the problem as well. Is being able to go, hey, hang on a second, I've got a solution, but what's the outcome of this? We're compromising. We might be able to fix this, but we're compromising our values. I really like that.
So I've had lots of things that have gone on, and it's sort of like, and I guess I'm, Kylie laughs at me when I do this, but like one of the things I'm like is that like when a problem is given to me, and I'm talking like a problem that I've no idea how to solve this, then what I actually do is I just go hunting for how to go to get a solution.
And how do you do that? By speaking to people?
I'll Google, I'll have a chat, I'll talk to a couple of different people, I'll ask a few different questions until I can get a result. And so I'll just keep on hunting until I can find a way that I could fix it.
That's the journalist in you, mate, from the papers.
Not necessarily that. What I would say is that ultimately I want to get to a solution because I want to minimize discomfort, impact, challenge inside of a business. And so, I have found that like literally, and I've only had to do this probably 6 or 7 times in my career, but when I've had a really significant issue with something that's gone down, then I'm like, okay, great. And I can't get resolve out of the service providers or customer service people in the phone call center or whatever, that my easiest way to get a result, and this is going to be interesting, is what I go to call the swarm effect.
Yep.
So what I do with the swarm effect is that I go in to that organization. I have LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And then what I do is I find out who are all the people that are on the executive of that particular business.
Right.
So I will look at if they have a board, who's the chairman of the board, who's on the board. I then go after every single person that has an executive title. CEO, CTO, CFO, CMO, and I go through all of those people. And then what I then do is I then go to work out how to actually guess the email that email format that business would use.
Yeah. So, or if you're on LinkedIn, you can just use InMail.
No. But so watch this. So now I go and I try to guess the email.
Yeah.
And I write a very succinct, clear email. Within like 1 or 2 paragraphs.
Copying all of them in?
No.
Each individually.
So you got to know the swarm effect. So hi Con. Well, my name is Josh. We haven't had the opportunity to meet. As the CEO of a business, I would want to know that this is happening.
Yeah.
And then but I keep it very brief. This is what has occurred. This is what I need you to do. And if I don't have response from you, then the next stage I'll have to determine, but it's going to be fierce.
Yeah.
Right. And so then what I then do is I then write that contextually to the CMO, to the CEO. Individually.
Right.
So I email them each individually. And then the next thing I then do is I then use LinkedIn email to then copy that same message to each of them individually. So now
there's no excuse that they've got it.
Now it's going on email. Now it's going on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And so literally what's actually happening here is that their emails just spun twice. And then all of a sudden, if the executive team or the board or the leadership team, who is this person?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I can see on LinkedIn that they've read it.
Yeah, you can.
And then off the back of that. And then what I've actually also done is that I've seen that they didn't respond, but I've seen that they've read it on LinkedIn. And then I then send them another message and I say, I've noticed that you have read this and you have not responded. That is clearly your choice. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Mate, I'm like, it's very rare I've had to do it, but I've had to deal with high-end insurance companies, biggest CRM company in the world. I've had to go after people that, administer domain names, like you name it.
Yeah, but you've also dealt with, and I know some personal stuff. I'm talking about people, getting into personal crisis that are saying, hey, we need someone that help us navigate through this.
Yeah.
So if you can't have the swarm effect.
Yeah.
I like that. It's like, hey, I'm pulling out, I need help here, guys.
All stops.
I'm asking for help. Please help.
And so then, the record on this is that literally I've had a reply and had the issue fixed in under a minute.
Wow.
Because of the swarm effect.
Wow.
I've also had people that clearly said, no, that's not going to happen, completely spin and do a full 180.
Oh,
because a full 360 is where you were.
Yeah.
So 180.
Yeah.
So a full 180.
Yeah.
And have that resolved in under a few hours.
Wow, there you go.
So I don't like using the skill. But if I'm in a situation where something really needs it, I will absolutely get attention.
So with this then, Josh, is this kind of like, so we've never done this. We've never been in touch wood in a crisis, but now it's got me thinking, is this something that I kind of do when I'm doing my business planning around April, May? Is like, what happens when the shit's a fan?
But I think that you should definitely, with your executive leadership team, or if you're in a small business, your whole business, but actually say, okay, great, guys, this is our crisis plan.
Yep.
Should something happen.
Yeah. Okay.
And now I know what we actually did, in the early days around COVID, believe it or not. I wish I had have had more clarity with that really early on.
Yeah.
And I remember that it was quite funny. My accountant said to me at the time, she said, it took you 3 years to work out your first business model. Why are you so upset that you're 3 days in and you haven't worked out your second one? And I was like, but that whole idea is that, like, think about crisis. Now, when you go and have a look in, like, there are more technical things that I've probably faced in the past where something hasn't happened and it needed to happen. Whereas I go the other way and I go, okay, great, let's go and have a look at when inside of organizations, there's been a cultural event, something's going on. How do we go to handle that? And like literally the interesting thing is that then you just run through, okay, great.
It's a process.
How does it compare against values? Who's going to need to be on the team? What's the type of people I would go to? Who would I do? And I've got a guy called the fixer. And literally when something has gone awry and I need like work on that fast, I will ring my fixer and talk him through that.
Right.
Here's the interesting thing. I've never had to have him fix anything yet.
No.
But the interesting thing is that by talking to him,
you're fixing it.
I'm fixing it because he's a really good guy to just spin some ideas off, to brainstorm some possible solutions and get into that.
Yeah.
And I just want you to think that like there's a few things like protect the asset is what runs through my mindset. So protect the asset. You're the asset, so you need to protect yourself first of all.
Yep.
And then the next conversation is then okay, great, and I've got to protect more broadly what I'm doing. So how many staff have you got now?
229.
So when something goes down, I'm doing this on behalf of the 229 families that we represent.
Yeah.
But also to the number of properties that we represent, the number under management and sales. So you're making more principled decisions as opposed to that. And sometimes you are going to have to deal with something which is really difficult because it's someone that you've got a very strong relationship with, that you've had for a long period of time, and something has happened.
Yeah.
And you've got to be the one that's actually got to make the call.
Yeah. Yeah, very good one. That's a great one.
Experiences that rapidly shaped you.
So I think that like that crisis call is interesting. I think if anything, stay super calm. And I know this, like I did a brainstorm swarm, in our trial event with our team, just with Claude, and Claude's like, oh my God, call the solicitors, go heavy, like go to high court. And I was just like, just calm the farm.
Yeah.
And so now I'm going to do this. And then we did that. And then we got the result really quickly. And then I typed it into Claude and Claude's like, yeah, you are right. We just need to cool our jets. Yeah. And this is like really an interesting thing is to kind of learn that as a part of that.
One idea or experience that's changing my view at the moment is the power of vulnerability is being able to say, hey, I need some help. It's being able to say, I don't have the answer to that, or I don't have the skill for that. Can you please help me? And I think that's something that we need to bring back into our businesses is the vulnerability. Sorry, I got it wrong. A friend of mine said, there was an incident in the office and he goes, I reacted probably in the wrong way. And he goes, how do I fix it? I said, just be vulnerable and go and speak to the people that it impacted and say, hey, listen, I'm really sorry for X, Y, or Z. I am human. I got it wrong in this instance, or, I got it right, or I, stand by my reaction. But the power of vulnerability changes lives.
Yeah, and I think this is that whole thing is that, like, you know, kindness is eternal.
Yeah, it is.
And I just think about that. Just be super kind.
Yeah.
And if you can learn how to, you know, be one of the people that just make someone feel great, and you can be kind. And like, and I think that, you know, probably Ben Crow's quote on this is the best. And, you know, Ben's just written a new book.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really loved in that is that, like, you know, being clear is kind, being unclear is unkind.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so be in a position that you learn how to be really clear because it's actually kind.
Correct, yeah.
Hey, Con, you know, this is not going to be able to go on.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's hard to hear, but I need you to know that because I don't want you to have false hope about X, Y, Z, you know? Or, hey, Con, I want you to know this is definitely a thing.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So then that way you can actually go home and have that chat with the CEO and make those decisions, yeah? Why are you laughing at that?
It's true, though. True story.